Bacula Enterprise Edition to the rescue.
Hello. In this video, I will be demonstrating how to use Bacula's Proxmox plugin. We are going to run a backup. We'll use the Rocky 9 backup in this example. First, click on Run Backup. Click on Job Name and type in Rocky 9. Select the Proxmox one. Click on What, and then click on Full Backup. Then, let it run. This should only take a couple of minutes. So, this is the job summary screen. Once a job is finished, you'll see the job log at the bottom half of your screen, as well as some stats at the top. From here, to do a restore, we have several different options. We can click the Restore button here, and then drill down and go find what we want to restore out of this job. We have the virtual machines. So this is a virtual machine backup, so we have the ability to see our VMs as objects. So for example, we can see we have Proxmox VMs, 7 of them. If we click this, now we only see Proxmox VMs, and we see our job that we just backed up. We can do a restore from here. If we choose to restore from here, Bacula knows everything about this job, the file set that was used, what was backed up inside of it, and it knows how to find everything it needs for this object, so it's going to skip the first 2 or 3 questions: the client, the job, the file set, and everything else. And it brings us to step number 4, where we decide how we're going to go ahead and restore this VM. If we leave this as is, where being temp restores, it will restore it locally in the temp directory on this client. If we set this to a /, that puts it back where it came from, and in this case, it's a VM, so it puts it back into the VMware environment. You'll notice we have a new Proxmox tab here, because it knows it's a Proxmox backup. We can choose this, and we have a couple of different options. With some hypervisors, we have a lot more options to choose from. We just have a couple of different options here. So, we're not going to choose any. We're just going to go ahead and click on Run Restore. And so, once this restore starts, we'll go take a look at our Proxmox interface. Give this a couple of seconds. Okay, it's telling us it's restoring this as this new VM here. So if we come over here to our Proxmox tab, we should see a new VM being created right down here. This is our new VM. And then once it's restored, it can be renamed and edited and so on. But for now, we can see that a restore is happening. If we click on this inside the Proxmox interface, we can see it progress. We're at 39%, so it's going to take a couple of minutes, just like it did to do the backup. Okay, the restore is finished. We have some information. Took 2 minutes and 21 seconds to complete. We can see the job log here. We can see the termination.
Restore OK.
That's important to know. We can see, as we saw before, the VM is going to be restored as VM10807, which we saw being created earlier. Now, if we come back over to our Proxmox tab, that VM is here, and it can be started. So,
start that up.
Give it a couple of seconds. We can see that it's starting down here. And what we can do is we can go to the console of this VM, watch it boot, and there we go. Log in. So, we have a running VM. At this point, we can go ahead and rename it. The ID of the job is a temporary name. So, we have a running VM, and it's working. It's going ahead and doing an update right now. So, again, we have a working VM. And now we can go back to bweb. And then we can go back to the main console here. We can have a quick look at how this job is configured. Click on Director, then File Sets. Take a look at what the file set looks like by typing Rocky9 into the search bar. Select this one. Now in bweb, we're just looking at a web form representation of what's actually written to disk. So this is all on one line on the disk. Basically, it says use the QEMU plugin, back up this one VM using the PVE mode of the QEMU plugin, and abort the job if there are any errors whatsoever. We can go look at the job, which is pretty straightforward. Type Rocky9 into the search bar. The job is just going to say, use that file set that we just looked at. Okay, this is the important thing right here. We're using this specific file set to back up the Rocky9 Linux. So this file set has some other defaults set. For the client the VM is running on, we need to know where it's being written to and the schedule if there is one. This one's run manually. Job is enabled. And by default, it's going to run incrementally each time that we run it, unless we specify a full, which is what I did for that backup. So this is the basic configuration for the job itself. We can then go to the automation section if you're interested. So if we go to Automation, then Automation Center. I'm not going to create an automation. I'm just going to go through the steps and show an automation that's already created for creating VMs on my Proxmox 3 server. I'm going to go ahead and edit this one. It's already created. When you're done creating one of these automations, they create an admin job. Admin jobs in general don't back up any data or move any data. They simply run scripts. And what this does, in this one, they run our scan plugin script, which basically says, hey, talk to the Proxmox 3 server and find my VMs, create jobs, and file sets for each VM that's found. And then the next time it runs, usually nightly on a schedule, it does the same thing. But any new VMs that are found, a new file set and a new job will be created, and then any VMs that are no longer on that server, whether they've been migrated to a different Proxmox server, either my O2 or my O1, or they've been decommissioned, those jobs and file sets can get deleted, so that each morning when you come in, you don't have hundreds of jobs that have failed because VMs have been decommissioned. A lot of times the backup admins don't manage the infrastructure, and they're not responsible for creating and decommissioning VMs. So they're just responsible for making sure what's there is backed up, and then preventing errors in the morning, causing themselves headaches that they don't need. So anyway, here's the admin scan job. That's what I called it, to create jobs and file sets for each VM that matches a set of criteria that you'll see in a minute on this Proxmox 3 server. So we choose a plugin, QEMU, and then we're given a choice of all the Bacula clients in the infrastructure that have that plugin installed. And in this case, Proxmox 3 is the one we're working on. We need to set PVE for the QEMU plugin when we're working with Proxmox servers. So there's nothing special here except that one option that we're going to set. Give this a second while it goes and queries the server. We'll do a quick refresh. What I've configured here is a Java regex, which says back up any VMs you find that end in a -BCK, case insensitive. So, this is a little more advanced, but regexes are pretty straightforward in the Linux world. Anyways, what we can see here is that for any one of these VMs that are included, they're going to end in some version of the word BCK, whether it's capital or not. So, we can see at the bottom here that we have 48 VMs that are on this one server. 18 have been included by our rule up here. So we can go ahead and click on Next. And we say OK to this. Job definitions are really just defaults for jobs. So this has a bunch of settings in it. This one called Backups to Dedupe 2, a pool of storage and other things. You can mention this if you like. We've decided to set a SHA1 signature and compression for this file set. No other special plugin options are done. The job name that gets created is based on this template we set here. %C stands for a client, %P stands for the plugin name, and %V stands for the virtual machine in this case. You can set this up any way you like. There are other variables, but try to keep it simple. We can take a look at what this might look like. So from here we can see Proxmox 03FD, which happens to be the name of the client, QEMU is the name of the plugin, and this happens to be the name of one of the VMs randomly chosen for this template here. So that just gives you an idea of what your job names will look like, so you can make this look any way you like with this here. Click Next. Now, we give this thing a name, something that makes sense. In this case, it's a scan admin job for the QEMU plugin on Proxmox Server 3. Currently, it's set on no schedule. I want it to run manually, and then this is used for when a VM is no longer there. It's been decommissioned, the script runs and says, hey, I used to have this VM, it's no longer here, what should I do? Well, this will remove the jobs and file sets from the file system before committing the changes to the director. So, once we're done, we click Save. I'm not going to because I already have one and it's already here. Now, I already mentioned this can run on a schedule and it currently does, but you can also run it manually. So if I click Update Now, that will actually trigger this admin job. This admin job will run the scan plugin script and it will take a look at all the systems, all the VMs on that Proxmox 3 server and make some decisions. Let's jump to the jobs. Go to Job Overview. We can now see what this job did when it ran. We can take a look at its log here, and it should show up in its entirety. What we can see here is that we get a report for the scan plugin. And it tells us the client, the plugin's QEMU, and how many objects are added here. What we notice is that these are all updated, meaning they've existed previously. There were no new ones added, we see no pluses here, and there were none of them removed or disabled, so no X's and no D's. But this is nice, because this lives in the job log, so you have a history of when VMs appear and disappear in your environment. And that's it. You now know how to use Bacula's Proxmox plugin. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, Proxmox is just one of a huge choice of virtual machines that Bacula natively integrates with. Find out more at baculasystems.com.